Hey there guys, EctoMaster here, back with more Legion beta action as we take a look at the Mage. Majorific. I don't know. I'm just making up names now. Like I had beef ragu, you know. Here's Majorific, okay? Okay. Anyways, the Mage is all about damage. That's all they do. Whether it's arcane, fire, or frost, it is damage that they deal. So, yeah, all the primary stats are intellect. And we're going to start with fire because that's the spec that when you make a level 100 mage, they put you in. I don't know why. Whatever. Anyways, let's take a look at it. So, fire, ignite enemies with balls of fire and combustible flames. Well, surprise. And their spells are Fireball, Hot Streak, Combustion, Pyroblast, Inferno Blast, and Scorch. Look at that. All things that deal with fire. I don't know. I give up after a while. It's just like, oh, this is easy. Why am I even bothering explaining it? Look, if you don't understand what a fire mage does in damage, then play a hunter. Level 15. We have Pyromaniac. Casting Pyroblast while Hot Streak is active has a 10% chance to instantly reactivate Hot Streak. Conflagration. Fireball also applies conflagration to the target, dealing an additional X fire damage over 8 seconds. Enemies affected by either conflagration or ignite have a 10% chance to flare up and deal X fire damage to nearby enemies. Fire Starter. Your Fireball spell always deals a critical strike when the target is above 90% health. Level 30, we have Shimmer. It replaces Blink. It teleports you 20 yards forward unless something is in the way, unaffected by the global cooldown, and castable while casting. Cauterize. Fatal damage instead brings you to 35% health and then burns you for 28% of your maximum health over 6 seconds. While burning, movement slowing effects are suppressed, and your movement speed is increased by 150%. This effect cannot occur more than once every 2 minutes. Cold Snap. Ice Block now has 2 charges and also heals you for 3% of your maximum health every 1 second. At level 45, we have Mirror Image, which creates 3 copies of you nearby, and they cast spells and attack your enemies. They last for 40 seconds. Rune of Power places a Rune of Power on the ground for 10 seconds, which increases your spell damage by 50% while you stand within 8 yards. Incanter's Flow, which I just accidentally clicked on. Magical energy flows through you while in combat, building up to 20% increased damage and then diminishing down to 4% increased damage, cycling every 10 seconds. Can I click on Mirror Image? I can. There we go. I usually like Mirror Image. Blast Wave causes an explosion around the target, enemy, or ally, dealing X fire damage to all enemies within 8 yards and reducing movement speed by 70% for 4 seconds. A primary enemy target will take 100% increased damage. Flame On. Hold on. Flame On! That's my Human Torch Johnny Storm impression. That's right. Surprise, I'm a nerd. Flame On immediately grants 2 charges of Inferno Blast. Controlled Burn. When you gain Heating Up, you have a 10% chance to instantly activate Hot Streak. 75, we have Ice Blows. Makes your next mage spell with a cast time shorter than 10 seconds, castable while moving. Unaffected by the global cooldown and castable while casting, maximum of 3 charges. Ring of Frost. Summons a Ring of Frost for 10 seconds at the target location. Enemies entering the ring are incapacitated for 10 seconds, and the limit is 10 targets. Ice Ward. It's simple. Frost Nova now has 2 charges. I know. I love simple stuff. Level 90, Living Bomb. A Living Bomb. The target becomes a Living Bomb, taking X fire damage over 11 seconds, and then exploding to deal an additional X fire damage to the target and all other enemies within 10 yards. Other enemies hit by the explosion also become a living bomb, but this effect cannot be spread any further. Unstable magic. Fireball has a 30% chance to explode on impact, dealing 50% additional damage to the target and all other enemies within 8 yards. Flame Patch. Flame Strike leaves behind a patch of flames which burns enemies within it for X fire damage over 8 seconds. Level 100 Kindling. Your Fireball, Pyroblast, and Inferno Blast critical strikes reduce the remaining cooldown on combustion by 1 second. Cinder Storm. Hold on. Cinder Storm. Anytime we have a storm, you have to do that. You have to. There's no option. You have to do that. Throws a spread of 6 cinders that travel in an arc, each dealing X fire damage to enemies it hits. Damage increased by 30% if the target is affected by your ignite. And last but not least for the Fire Mage, Meteor. Calls down a meteor which lands at the target location after 3 seconds, dealing X fire damage split evenly between all targets within 8 yards, and burns the ground, dealing X fire damage over 8 seconds to all enemies in the area. Now, those of you who are wondering why I'm saying X damage and not the numbers, is I'm pretty sure those numbers increase as you level. I can't say that for 100% positivity, but that's what I'm going with. Let's go ahead and go over to Arcane and take a look at that and what Arcane does. Now, I am expecting some, kind of like the Druid, some bleed over from the other talents. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So Arcane manipulates Arcane, destroying enemies with overwhelming power. Arcane Blast, Arcane Barrage, Evocation, Arcane Missiles, Arcane Explosion, and Arcane Power. Change one word and that could be Arachnid Power. Alright, let's move on. So level 15 we have Arcane Familiar. I was just looking for the similar things and I have found them. So Arcane Familiar, summon a familiar that attacks your enemies and increases your maximum mana by 10%, lasts 1 hour. Presence of Mind causes your next 2 Arcane Blasts to be instant cast. And Torrent, Arcane Barrage deals 25% increased damage per target it hits. Now level 30 and level 45, these we have seen. Shimmer, Cauterize, and Cold Snap, Encanter's Flow, Rune Power, and Mirror Image, those are all on the other. We saw that with fire. So, moving on to level 60, we have Supernova. No, this is not Nova from StarCraft, who has become a superhero. Pulses arcane energy around the target, enemy, or ally, dealing X arcane damage to all enemies within 8 yards, and knocking them upward. A primary enemy target will take 100% increased damage. Charged Up immediately grants 4 arcane charges. And Words of Power. Grants 1% increased chance to trigger arcane missiles per 20% of your mana you have unspent. Now again, Ice level 75, we saw those on fire as well. So moving on to level 90. 90, we have Nether Tempest. Places a Nether Tempest on the target, which deals X arcane damage over 12 seconds to the target and X damage to all enemies within 10 yards. Limit 1 target. Damage increased by 79% per arcane charge. Unstable Magic. Arcane Blast has a 15% chance to explode on impact, dealing 50% additional damage to the target and all other enemies within 8 yards. We saw that as well. This is just Arcane instead. Erosion. Your attacks erode the target's resistances. Increasing all damage the target takes from your spells by 1%, stacking up to 8 times. After 3 seconds of not taking damage from your spells, this effect decreases by 1% after every 1 second. At level 100, we have Overpowered. Casting Arcane Missiles extends Arcane Power by 2 seconds. Quickening. Arcane Blast, Arcane Missiles, and Arcane Explosion also grant 2% haste for 6 seconds, stacking up to 100 times. This effect is cleared when you cast Arcane Barrage. And last but not least, Arcane Orb. Launches an Arcane Orb forward from your position, traveling up to 40 yards, dealing X arcane damage to enemies it passes through. Grants 1 arcane charge when cast, and every time it deals damage. Sounds rather like, I don't know, laming. Let's go to Frost. So, if Fire dealt with fire, and Arcane dealt with arcane, then Frost surely must deal in fell magic. Oh, look at that, Frost. Freezes enemies in their tracks and shatters them with frost magic. Frostbolt, Frozen Orb, Brain Freeze, Ice Lance, Fingers of Frost, and Summon Water Elemental. Alright. So level 30, level 45, we've all seen. Level 75, we have seen as well. We'll move on from those. Ray of Frost, level 15. For the next 10 seconds, you can channel a beam of icy power at an enemy, slowing movement by 50% and dealing X frost damage every 0.9 seconds. Each time Ray of Frost deals damage, its damage increases by 20%. Lonely Winter replaces Summon Water Elemental. You can no longer summon your Water Elemental, but Frostbolt, Ice Lance, Frozen Orb, and Icicles deal 25% increased damage. Bone Chilling. Whenever you attempt to chill a target, you gain Bone Chilling, increasing all frost damage you deal by 0.5% for 6 seconds, stacking up to 16 times. So 30 and 45 we're skipping, going on to 60. Ice Nova causes a whirl of icy wind around the target, enemy, or ally, dealing X frost damage to all enemies within 8 yards and freezing them in place for 2 seconds. A primary enemy target will take 100% increased damage. Frozen Touch immediately generates 2 charges of Fingers of Frost. And Splitting Ice, your Ice Lance and Icicles now hit a second nearby target for 75% damage. Level 75, we've seen all these as well, so let's move on to Frost Bomb on level 90. Places a Frost Bomb on the target for 12 seconds, limit 1 target. Your Ice Lance that benefits from Shatter will trigger the release of a wave of freezing ice, dealing X frost damage to the target, and X frost damage to all other enemies within 10 yards. Unstable Magic, which we saw in the others, Frostbolt has a 20% chance to explode on impact, dealing 50% additional damage to the target and all other enemies within 8 yards. Arctic Gale increases Blizzard's damage by 30% and its area of effect by 20%. Level 100, we have Thermal Void. Casting Ice Lance extends your icy veins by 2 seconds. Glacial Spike conjures a massive spike of ice and merges your current icicles into it. It impales your target, dealing X damage plus the damage stored in your icicles, and freezes the target in place for 4 seconds. Damage may interrupt the freeze effect. It requires 5 icicles to cast. So Ice Lance no longer launches icicles. And then Comet Storm. So we had Meteor with, fire. And Mana Bomb with, Arcane. Well, this one you get Comets, which are big frozen balls of ice and rock from the sky. Calls down a series of 7 icy comets on and around their target, each of which deals X frost damage to all enemies within 4 yards of its impact. So there you have it. That is a mage. And all of their specs. I tried to make it look like Chromie. Because Chromie is best Chromie. Chromie is best Nomi. Yep, you heard me say that. As a Horde player, Chromie is best Nomi. Anyways, that's it for the mage, guys. We'll be back with more class talents. We're going to continue. We're going down the list in alphabetical order, so stay tuned. All the others are coming soon. Right.